As you're chiming in, people, I need to let you know that I'm recording this session. So, first of all, you guys did really posted some good questions and some good, valuable insights that I want to kind of hit upon with you. Some from our class and some from the Gold 4. And so, everybody is, I think, finding that this is something that's somewhat relatable. And so the first kind of statement is a recognition, might just be me, but I don't think Conrad is getting better. And so what's the deal with that? Conrad does not seem to be getting better. He seems to be struggling still. But how do we respond to that? What do we say about that? Is trauma something that you just get over? No. It takes time. It takes some time. He's reached bottom before, and the question now becomes, is there a new bottom that he needs to hit in order to be able to get better, or are things different this time around? And so everything is different. Just because once you reach the end of a cycle, things are a little bit different the next time you go through a cycle. And you need to kind of keep that in mind. And ultimately our mental health, it's not like, we can just get better. It takes time. There's a process. Why does the mom not like to interact with Conrad, even though he was in a very bad mental state? And this is a great question. And something that I want you to be thinking about is that Beth doesn't get a voice. She does not get to speak for herself. We don't know what she is thinking. We only know what the men in the family are thinking. And so what ultimately does that mean, for kind of how we might go about interpreting the novel? How does it maybe help us try to look at Beth a little bit differently? When a person is silenced, is not given a voice, we make assumptions about that person. When somebody doesn't speak up for themselves, we make assumptions about that person. It's why it's important that you have a voice. And it's, ultimately one of the reasons that therapy is valuable. Talk therapy is valuable. So someone expressed discomfort, that it's good, the book is good, but because of what it's about, it's also very exhausting. And what I want you to be thinking about here, where this is concerned, I'm going to have to move this over a little bit, I think, just so I can give myself a little bit more space. Although we're in May, too, which makes things a little bit complicated. There is about 7 years ago, there were a series of studies that were published, or maybe it was only just one study, now that I think of it, that ties empathy with literary fiction. And the suggestion is that when we read characters and thematic ideas, complex characters, we become more empathetic. And so maybe I can do this like a math problem, right? Characters and thematic ideas. Equals stronger empathy in us. Some of us know these characters. Some of us are these characters. And so there's a growing understanding as we're making our way through the piece. And hopefully what I just told you about Beth will help to build a little bit more empathy for her. Despite the fact that, we're frustrated with her because we don't understand. But we don't understand because the author is not giving us that voice. Think about the people under those circumstances in your life whom you don't understand. You don't understand why they do the things that they do. And is that because of a communication problem? Also, in terms of this discomfort, it's not my goal. I know that this is an uncomfortable piece. It's not my goal to make you so uncomfortable that you shut down. I want you to be thinking about why in the world I would ask you to read a book with some of the thematic concepts that this book deals with at this particular moment in time in your life. Why would I do that? Is there something bigger at the end that maybe will help you see why? Because right now it's pretty hard. Right now, I'll confess that it's pretty hard. It's tough. In fact, the most recent incident, kind of inciting incident that we read, and it's just this constant buildup of kind of anxious sorts of things, is something that my own son recently did. He quit something that he loves because of a breakup that he experienced, 2 months ago. Is that right? Maybe 3 months ago. He quit something that he loved because of a breakup like 3 months ago. And so we're worried about him at our house. Or are there other things that we need to kind of be watching? So there's a reason for my choosing this book. And I want you to be thinking about that. Lots of folks indicating they appreciate the reality of life presented. And it's not necessarily that they have questions, but kind of where is this going to go? This is a great question. Why is Conrad so hard on himself mentally still after all that he's been through? Why is it that we're hard on ourselves? Why do we get hard on ourselves? Mark?
Like expectations.
Okay. So it's because of other people. Is it also because you have expectations of yourself? Okay. Question about the mayfly. And again, so what is the question that's left unasked by the mayfly? We've got somebody who's still kind of struggling with that. Parker? Who am I? The mayfly doesn't care. The mayfly has a lifespan of, 24 hours? That's it. That's the lifespan of the mayfly. It doesn't have to worry about what it has to do like you. It doesn't have to worry about what it's going to be. Everything is just, they just go purely on instinct. They know what to do. But as people, we're thoughtful. We're conflicted. We struggle with choosing whether or not we're going to do something. We struggle with a lot of things because we ask questions. It's one of the only ways that we learn, but it is also one of those things, asking questions is one of those things that sometimes can hold us back. If it was just laid out for us, how easy would that be? If you were just told what to do all the time. Now, some of you feel like, yeah, I get told what to do all the time. But those moments where you get a choice, and under those circumstances, that can be difficult. Making the choice when you're finally given the opportunity to make a choice. That's hard. There's a question about why doesn't Conrad tell Lazenby that he has quit the swim team? Why doesn't he tell him? Why would he not tell him? What does Conrad think of Lazenby? And what's the actual truth? Lazenby is the one who gives him a ride. Lazenby is the one in the photo of he and Buck that he found in his desk drawer. They were like the Three Musketeers. What does Conrad think of Lazenby? Take a look at '81. This is the first time we don't have a time shift or a shift in narrator. First time that we do not have a shift in narrator. It is sequentially Conrad to Conrad. Laughter drifts upstairs from the locker room, loud and raucous. From the top of the stairs, he can hear Stillman, his voice raw with complaint. And Stillman is that jerk. Lazenby, Jesus, why are you so nervous about making a commitment? Just yes or no. It costs money, that's why. For $3, I like to know what I'm seeing. Hell, it's a goddamn French sex film. What more do you have to know? More laughter, and he starts down the stairs, rubbing his head with a towel. Lazenby says, okay, how about if I ask Jarrett? And he stops, loops the towel around his neck, listening. You ever think about doing anything without Jarrett? What's that mean? It means what it says. I just wondered. Genty says, hey, what's with him anyway? How come he gets all the extra practice time? Hell, I could look better if I had extra practice time. Genty, you couldn't look better if you were a girl, Truant jeers. That's the goddamn truth. He stands outside the open door, smoothing his hand lightly along the polished wood frame. Slowly, slowly. Lazenby says, I just thought we'd ask him, Kevin. You know what happens when you hang around with Flake, Stillman says? You get flaky. Man, do you mind? Lazenby asks mildly. He's a friend of mine. He's a flake. You ought to get off his back, Kevin Van Buren says. The guy's got enough problems. He sure has. More laughter, and he does not wait to hear the rest, but turns abruptly, heading back up the stairs. What is Conrad thinking about Lazenby in that moment? Kitty, you need to borrow one? Yeah, you get here. I trip over a desk. What does he think about that moment? Thanks, Tom. What does he think about Lazenby? Yeah.
Maybe as a guy who's nervous, but I'm not entirely sure that's right.
No, probably not. What does he think of all those guys? Yeah.
They're kind of like stuck up.
Yeah, and he lumps Lazenby in with them because that is just kind of ultimately who Lazenby has to be with. So there's a lumping in of Lazenby with these other guys because they're all, they all ride in Lazenby's car together. But the truth is, if you take a look at page 83, let's see here, the second, certainly the second chunk, second paragraph in that second chunk. He gets in front, setting his bag on the floor. Lazenby asks if he's interested in going to the show tonight. He declines, he has to study. And then Stillman, pipes in. They laugh. The sound is forced, false. We'll be back by 11, Lazenby says. No, I can't. Who says, Stillman asks. Your mom. What a wiener, right? I'll see you tomorrow, Lazenby says, about 8:20. I've got to go early tomorrow, he says. I'll get a ride with my dad. How early? I can go a little early. No, that's okay. I'll see you there. Lazenby's trying. He's trying. Conrad doesn't see it. He thinks it's pity. He thinks everybody is pitying him. So that's one of the big things that he's struggling with. He doesn't tell Lazenby because he doesn't want that kind of attention. I think that's a big part of it. I feel that the people on the team that are mean to Conrad are a part of what is causing his mental health to decline and get worse. Does he quit because of the people, or does he quit because he was afraid of what his teammates were thinking of him? Or is there another reason that he quits? Why does he quit the swim team? It's a very simple reason. Yeah.
Is he just not up for it anymore?
It's not fun anymore. He doesn't enjoy it anymore. I was asked, I do a lot of local theater, or I used to do a lot of local theater. I was asked in early December if I wanted to do a show that was coming up in March. And I was like, no, I don't need that kind of stress in my life right now. No, thanks. I don't want that. And it's, there's an anxiety in worrying about so many different things when it comes to performing. You ought to, if you're not having fun with something that you used to have fun with, you gotta ask yourself every now and then, why am I still doing this thing? Why am I still doing this thing? Let's see. When his parents are arguing about going on vacation over Christmas, Beth makes her point saying it was no one's fault for what happened to Conrad. And even though that's true, Conrad's parents should put in more effort. All they do is send him away to be treated as if to give away their problems. This makes me wonder why Beth can't forgive Conrad for his poor mental health. So that's the question we want to be asking. Is that why she can't forgive him? Is that why? I feel like most mothers would make it their priority to fix their relationships with their children after almost losing them. And again, we don't have insight into what Beth is thinking. We don't know what she's struggling with because Judith Gass, our author, does not give her that voice. Anything else? Yeah, and again, why does the mother not care as much as she should have? We don't know what she's thinking. All right. Go back to chapter 9. There's a notion of unbreakable rules that comes up at the end of the first full paragraph on page 73. Unbreakable rules. And this goes back to that idea that I asked you about, in terms of choices and having things laid out for us. Unbreakable rules. In this particular case, the unbreakable rule is no pencil sharpening during a quiz. So that's one. That's one that we have. So your pencil breaks, and you got to go get a new one from the desk. Do there seem to be other unbreakable rules in Conrad's life? You have a sense of whether or not there are other unbreakable rules in Conrad's life. Anybody at home, can you think of any? Unbreakable rules in Conrad's life. I want to venture forth with do what your parents tell you. And so as a subset, make your bed. Straighten the towels. And there was one incident where he came home and he hanged his coat up carefully in the closet. And so that adverb, I think, is an important one. Other unbreakable rules. As we move into adulthood, what happens when the rules no longer exist? Previously unbreakable ones. Yikes. What happens then? I want you to think about how these two ideas connect to control. And what is it that Conrad wants from his therapy sessions? What does he want from his therapy sessions? Why does he go to see Berger? Remember? What's he looking for?
Control.
Control. Control over what? Himself. But what, doesn't he have control over himself? Does Conrad have control over himself? Yep.
Yes and no.
How does that work? I think you're exactly right. But how does that work? How is it that Conrad has control over himself, but doesn't have control over himself? Dickie, were you going to say something? Yeah. How does he have control and not have control? For those of you in the room looking at this board, why does he quit the swim team?
It's not fun anymore.
It's not fun anymore to him, but there's something else. Margaret.
That's like one of the things.
That's a thing that he can control. It's an assertion of control. Quitting the swim team is within his locus of control. He's got these other things going on in his life that are stressing him out. How many of you are stressed out? Seriously? One person? Wow. Sorry, I am too. And so, under those circumstances, it feels like something's got to go. And so what is it that's got to go? Top of page 74. Tangents, cotangents, when are you ever going to use them? It doesn't matter. On page 75, that realization that tangents, cotangents, when are you ever going to use them? It doesn't matter. He starts to kind of reflect back on his past. So on 75, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down, last year, a quiz being returned. Across his paper in red pencil, incomplete, see me. He had stared at it all through the hour while the rest of the class discussed and made corrections. No use listening. None of it meant anything to him? What was he struggling with at that time? What was he struggling with? Yeah. The death of his brother.
Oh my gosh. Never mind.
And that was not something that he could control, right?
Wait, but like, was it in the class that he was referring to?
So it was flashback as he's thinking about receiving this test back,
Oh,
and he has that thought.
okay.
The death of his brother is not something that he could control. Accidents. There are things that you cannot control. 75 at the bottom, the holidays, Christmas in Florida. The only memory he has, so the very last partial sentence on 75, the only memory he has of that period, that and the ceaseless, remorseless blue of ocean. Do we remember how his brother died? He drowned. Okay. Despite the fact that he is what? That he was on the swim team. We've got this nightmare, and that is a nightmare about control. Yeah.
So, his brother's death wasn't something that he could control, but he could still blame himself for it.
Yes.
So does he like see that as something that was out of his control, or like to him was that something that he could?
I think he sees that it was not anything within his control. That he does not see it as something that was controllable, even though he still blames himself. Does that make sense? Yeah. I mean, we blame ourselves for things that are not in our control. Why in the world do we do that? Why do we do that? And it's the way that our minds work. Our minds are cruel things sometimes to us. Okay? This dream that he has, when I first moved out here, after a terrible breakup, I had a recurring nightmare where I was back in my hometown and every bridge that I was driving over collapsed below my car. Every single one. That's about control. And a loss of control. And so I freak out when I have to drive over a bridge. Where's my daughter going to school? Same place. And it is a city of bridges. But I do what I have to do. Recurring nightmare. And so his is just feeling closed in and out of control. 78, notice that he asks his therapist for some sort of drug, a tranquilizer. I feel nervous all the time. I can't sleep. And so it's getting at why is it that he's nervous all the time. Page 79. This is one of the things that I was trying to communicate to you earlier. Page 79, and it's about a quarter of the way down. We've got this wonderful dialogue. And actually, we'll start at the top. Berger says, well, why don't you quit then? Conrad says, I can't. It'd look so stupid. So he, too, just like his parents, is worried about Appearances. And appearances is something that you can control. How things appear. Or we can control how we think they appear. We can't control how other people are going to look at us. We have no control over that. We can try and try and try all we want. So how much of, maybe we should ask that question, how much of appearance is within our control? How much of our appearance is within our control? I can't. It looks so stupid. I go to him and beg for one more chance, then I swim for 2 months and quit again. Can't you see how stupid that would look? Forget how it looks. How does it feel? No, that's what happened last year. It's the same damn thing I did last year. Forget last year. You think you're the same person you were last year? And he's not. And the person that he was last year is not the person that he was the year before that. We change. And these traumatic experiences change us sometimes forever in ways that we cannot control. There's, some of us is the same, but, ultimately we change. So tell me about the coach. How come he's a tight-ass son of a bitch? I don't know. He's a jerk. He says to me, this is typical. Jarrett, I had a friend who was hospitalized for the same thing 5 years ago. Been in and out of institutions ever since. Now, what the hell am I supposed to say to that? What did you say? I told him I wasn't planning on going back. He says, no, I don't suppose you are. Sometimes, Berger says, people say stupid things. They feel like they got to say something, Sometimes people say stupid things because they're stupid. And it's important that we all remember that. What are the things that we do just for the sake of appearances? What are the things that we continue to do that we don't enjoy anymore just for the sake of appearances? Let's see here. We're going to move ahead. End of, page 84. He doesn't tell his dad he quit the team. He isn't ready for it, not yet. He's done it maybe for the wrong reasons, but it was the right thing to do. And how many of you have quit something that you just didn't enjoy anymore and you felt relief? Yeah? Okay. So keep that in mind. And maybe at the time you weren't thinking straight when you made that decision, but it worked out for you. All right. So before we go into chapter 11 and 12, I want to share a website with you. And I want you to note that you have access to this website on our agenda. And so let me share that with the folks at home. Is this the right one? I hope so. Yep. So within our agenda, there's a website, and it's linked to the mental health. And this is a tremendous resource. So right away, what are they encouraging you? Just looking at this page. And hopefully you've got a sense of kind of what they're encouraging in you through some of your advisory lessons. What do we call this? What's another name for that or another word for that? It's not a creepy blob thing. Follow their directions for me. Breathe in. Breathe out.
Have a certain breathing.
What do you link that to?
I guess controlling your.
Okay, so there's a little bit of that going on. Did you ever see The Incredible Hulk? No. Too bad. Too bad. Mindfulness. Mindfulness. Have you guys talked about mindfulness at all in your advisory? No?
I think I've ever done it.
Oh, that is terrible. Zane, you have? Yeah, it's all about mindfulness. Okay? So we all have mental health. Our emotional health can range from thriving to struggling. No matter what you're experiencing, there are ways to take action to support yourself and those around you. So I just kind of clicked around. The first thing I did, I clicked the SOS. I was like, what's that all about? Because, ultimately we know what that stands for. It means you're desperate. Get help now. If you're struggling emotionally and need to talk to someone, you are not alone. Talking about our emotional struggle is the first step to feeling better. It's the first step. You can start by talking openly with a friend or family member, reaching out to a mental health professional, or using one of the free confidential resources below. And so we've got a suicide hotline, the Lifeline, a crisis text line, free confidential chat with a trained counselor. That's new. And then going further down, we've got a peer support phone service run by trans people for the trans community. We've got the Trevor Lifeline, a safe, judgment-free zone, judgment-free support service. It's all right. For LGBTQ and transitioning youth who are struggling, thinking about suicide. Disaster distress helpline. When you're experiencing emotional distress related to a natural or human-caused disaster. And then a free confidential resource for finding therapists. Some with websites, some just easy numbers. For you, take control of your mental health. I'm feeling, and ultimately, if you're not feeling any of those things, then that's not going to be helpful for you. I'm experiencing, so this is under the circumstances that you are in distress. Take action. What are some ways that you can take action? Mindfulness, being present. Negative feelings cause a lot of noise in our minds. It's important to find ways to be fully conscious in the moment. Breathing exercises, meditation, going for a walk, journaling. What are the things that you're grateful for? Reflect before you react. We all feel things. We have to feel our feelings. We also have to talk about our difficult feelings. And how do we help our friends? Be there for them. Warning signs. Distance, changes in habits. I'm seeing these things, in my teenagers at home. How much of it is adolescence and how much of it is mental health struggles? Some things that you can do. Be relaxed and non-judgmental. Lazenby seems to be that for Conrad. Calling them out for saying you don't do this You want to look for other ways. I feel like we haven't hung out one-on-one in forever. Are you up for dinner or coffee to catch up? Take a walk with someone? Don't try to fix. That's something that I've talked about too. You are not skilled. You do not have those skills to fix anybody. You can only, help, make suggestions, but you cannot fix anybody. And help them find help. Don't give up, but through it all, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take care of this place. You can't take care of other people if you aren't taking care of yourself. You got to know what your limits are. The reminder that you aren't alone. You're always there for them. So it's a really, really nice resource. And today is day 33 of semester 2. So if you want to remember where that is, you might jot that down for yourself. And I may try to figure out a way to put it, link it into my email signature. All right? So I thought that was a really, really valuable site that I wanted to share with you. All right, so let's take a look at chapter 11. Ray sticks his head inside Cal's office. Nobody knows, he says, the trouble she's seen. What's up? Seems our secretary is minus a boyfriend. At least that's what I get from the stuff going out over the telephone wire. She's got her own personal Ann Landers on the other end, I guess. Lord, I'd wish she'd blow her nose. You're a hard-hearted bastard, Cal says. Yeah, she'll find out how hard-hearted if she doesn't get some of this mail out. Not that I presume to compare it with the tragedy of the century that's going on out there. Somebody who's going through a romantic crisis shouldn't be expected to get the mail out. Hey, whose side are you on? Ray comes in, shuts the door behind him. You through with that pension plan yet? Not yet. Hey, buddy, what have you been doing all morning? Hey, buddy, don't get on my back. I'm not Cherry. Ray laughs. See what she's doing to me? Making me into a browbeater and a nagger. With my own partner, Jesus. An endless parade of secretaries. He's seen them interviewed, instructed, hired, used, and lost forever and ever on into eternity. They've been doing it for 7 years. It has been that long since they've had a good legal secretary. Since Lynn Searles. Poor Cherry. People are like icebergs, 1/7 visible and operative, and the rest just so much protoplasmic energy, seething around under there, looking for a target to funnel toward. Too bad she picked the wrong target. Yet it's hard to imagine that giddy, empty girl with any hidden energies. How did she summon up that much feeling for anybody? Watch it. Your immunity is showing. That's it, of course. He's become immune to the sufferings of others. I don't give a damn. Let them hurt. The things which hurt instruct. Benjamin Franklin. That was one of Arnold's favorites. Not true, though. The things which hurt don't always instruct. Sometimes they merely hurt. Ask me. Ask Nancy Hanley. Instruct sounds like such a positive word, but he doubts whether Ray's wife, even now, would believe in that saying. In any case, he would not ask her. A long time ago, and water over the dam. Lynn Searles. What made him think of her? Stern, straight-thinking Lynn, who always looked right into your eyes when she spoke to you, as if she could see behind them and into your head. He wonders idly what she's doing now. He wonders if Ray knows, if he knows where she is. Another question he would not ask. What was that? Water over the dam? Con is right. He will have to watch it. He's getting to think more like Howard every day. Howard is his grandfather. He runs into Carol Lazenby downstairs in the plaza, hatless, wearing a tweed pantsuit. Her large boned, square figure looks farm-like, out of place here, among the co-eds and snazzy secretaries parading the streets of Evanston at noontime. And because she looks so real and so alive, he's absurdly glad to see her, asks her to go to lunch with him on the spot. Gee, nobody's asked me to lunch in ages. I wonder if I'll know how to act. She offers to take him to the university sandwich shop where she commands a discount with her student ID. What are you taking? He asks. She laughs, self-consciously. It's called Search for Identity. Don't forget, who am I? Who am I? Funny. He would never have picked her out as a woman with identity problems. He tells her so, but she just laughs. Oh, come on, everybody has them, Cal. Looking 40 in the face is what scared me. Maybe if I was your wife, I could handle it better. Why? Why? She laughs again. Oh, I don't know. I guess because she doesn't look it. A pleasant lunch. He's forgotten how easy she is to talk to, how genuine. She asks about Con, and that makes it easier for him to inquire after Joe, to mention how he misses seeing him around the house, as he used to. Yes, they don't spend much time together, do they? Well, you tell Connie that I miss him. Tell him to stop over sometime soon. Beth, too. How is she? I only see her at bridge once a month, and we never seem to get a chance to talk. She's busy, too, Cal says. She's chairing the tennis tournament in Onwencia next spring. She spends a lot of time over there. I admire her organization, Carol says. She's such a perfectionist. And yet, she never lets herself get trapped into doing things she doesn't want to do. Now, there's an art. I'm just beginning to learn the trick myself. I hope it's not too late. He walks Carol to the counter, sends his greetings to John and to Katie, their daughter. We'll get together, he promises. On the way back to work, he thinks. She never lets herself get trapped. Not strictly true. He can remember a period of their lives when she felt distinctly trapped. When Jordan was 2 years old with Connie toddling around after him at 10 months. Both of them spreading havoc in that tiny north side apartment. Those first 5 years just passed in a blur, he's heard her say gaily at parties. But he remembers them and remembers the scenes, her figure, tense with fury as she scrubbed the finger marks from the walls. She bursting suddenly into tears because of a toy left out of place or a spoonful of food thrown onto the floor from the high chair. And it did not pay him to become exasperated with her. Once he had done so, had shouted at her to forget the damn cleaning schedule for once, she had flown into a rage, railed at him, and flung herself across the bed in hysterics. Everything had to be perfect. Never mind the impossible hardship it worked on them all. Never mind the utter lack of meaning in such perfection, weighed as it was against the endless repetition of days, weeks, months. They learned, all of them, that certain things drove her to the point of madness. Dirt tracked in on a freshly scrubbed floor, water-spotted shower stalls, articles of clothing left out of place. And he had to admit, he liked a clean house. He liked the order she brought into his life, perfectionist that she was. And so had he been after a fashion. No more. Not since the summer before last and an unexpected July storm on Lake Michigan. He had left off being a perfectionist then, when he discovered that not promptly kept appointments, not a house circumspectly clean, not membership in Onwencia or the Lake Forest Golf and Country Club or the Lawyers Club, not power or knowledge or goodness, not anything cleared you through the terrifying office of chance. That it is chance and not perfection that rules the world. Saw Nancy Hanley today having lunch at Deer Path. Oh, he keeps one eye on the newspaper before his face. Welfare fraud investigated. She said Ray's been putting on weight. He has? He has, she teases. Darling, Ray Hanley, your partner? Oh, yeah, him. Grinning, he puts down the paper. I hadn't noticed. Yeah, I guess he has been. 20 pounds. That's a lot not to notice. That much? How did she happen to tell you that? Beth shrugs. Just conversation. She said she's been trying to get him to see a doctor. It's just since he quit smoking. She looks terrific, by the way. Have you seen her lately? No, that's what Ray said about you. Well, she's thin. As thin as I've ever seen her. And she's done something to her hair. A rinse, I think? Officials in the downtown office say as much as $300,000 may have been misdirected by the fraudulent claims. Asked her how she stays so thin. She said worry and a bad marriage. What? She smiles. Just checking. See if you were listening. Would you like a drink before dinner? No, thanks. He glances at his watch. Is Con home yet? Not yet. It's 6:30. He's been later the past couple of weeks. So before I go any further there on the middle of 91, when do people stop worrying about their appearances? Ever? When do we stop worrying about how we look? And ultimately, when do appearances actually matter? Yeah.
I feel like we never stop worrying about what we look like. Because there's always gonna be some people like what they're talking about here about Ray. Like they're talking about him gaining weight and how he's like holding it and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. All my life, I've told my children, don't get a tattoo above your collar line. Don't get a tattoo above your collar line. It will be impossible for you to get a job. That's not true. I'm realizing now that that is not true. Right? Jobs are out there. Our waitress, on what day was it? Friday, I guess it must have been Friday. Had like tattoos on her palms. And at one time it would have been a deal breaker for somebody to hire you, to have a visible tattoo on your body and be in the service industry. How many of you are aware of that? That would have been a difficult thing to get a job like that. Just one person? A couple of you? Okay. But, it seems more and more our world is changing. Are we moving to a point where we can stop worrying about our appearances? Or will we always be worried because there's somebody out there who's judging us? And ultimately, I am judging that waitress in a way by pointing out that I noticed that she had tattoos on her palm. That would hurt. I can't imagine that. Oh my God, that would hurt. But, and my daughter pointed out that she would have to get that touched up because your palms are going to lose skin more often than other parts of your body. And so a palm tattoo you would need to have consistently touched up. And I can't conceive of that. He's been later the past couple of weeks, middle of 91. I've got an idea, he says. Why don't you come down tomorrow and take a look at that car with me? We can have lunch. I can't tomorrow. I ought to put in the order soon to get delivery before Christmas. Then do it, she says. Do what you like. I'm not good at picking out cars anyway. Do what you like. You don't sound terrifically sold on the idea. I'm sold. I think it's a nice idea. Well, it would give him some independence. He wouldn't have to rely on us for rides. Fine. We can make it a combination Christmas and birthday present. You decide. I'll leave it up to you. If it was up to him, he would give him everything. Sun and moon, eternal happiness, serene and uncomplicated. Here, will this fix it? But nothing needs fixing, does it? Things do seem better, more relaxed just since Thanksgiving. No, even before that. Is that illusion or reality? And again, the notion of fixing things for other people. It's not something we can do. Illusion or reality? 7 years ago, he had a conversation on that very subject with Nancy Handling at the Law Club Christmas dance. Sitting on the upper deck of the Chicago Yacht Club, Nancy had leaned over and said to him, "Tell Beth for me how lucky she is, will you?" "Why?" "To have you, and never to have been disillusioned." He had laughed, embarrassed, knowing where it was leading. He had emphatically not wanted to go into it, had never wanted to take sides in the thing, but Nancy was not about to let him off the hook. "People make mistakes, Nance." A mirthless laugh. "Yes, they do." Carefully, because he had no desire to disturb the truce that had been so recently effected between them. He had said, "Don't you think people are entitled to a few mistakes in a lifetime?" "No," she said. "What people are entitled to are their illusions. And frankly, I preferred my illusions about him. I would have preferred it if he had screwed her until he was sick of it and gotten rid of her without my ever having found out about it at all. I can't believe that, he told her. Illusions are for fairy tales. Your marriage is stronger now. Don't bet on it. And if you ever do a survey, you'll find that people prefer illusion to reality 10 to 1, 20 even. Any odds you want to give I'll cover. Worry and a bad marriage. Beth was joking. She said she had been joking. It had been 7 years since Ray's affair with Lynn. 7 years since Nancy had packed up the girls and gone to her parents in Oklahoma. And Ray, wild with grief, had come charging into the office to tell. So that's something to keep in mind. People make mistakes, and the idea of disillusionment, okay? And specifically, I preferred my illusions. And how does that link to the title? How do illusions link to the title of Ordinary People? Okay? How could I have been so stupid, Cal? How could I have been so selfish? Thinking I had it so tough, having to come home to a squalling baby every night? She's gone, Cal. She left me. What the hell am I going to do without her? Well, things change. People change. Lynn had left, and Nancy had come back, and they had moved out of their apartment and bought the big house in Glencoe. And surely Nancy is not the type of woman to live with somebody she doesn't love for the sake of the children. No illusion there. They are still married, therefore they're happy. But he sees the point she had been making. Depending upon the reality one must face, one may prefer to opt for illusion. Why do we do that? Why is it that we do that? He wants so much to believe that all is well. But then if it is, why does he keep taking pulses, looking for signs? The front door opens. He hears the familiar sounds of his feet scuffling the doormat, of the hangers clanging against each other in the closet as he hangs up his jacket. Hi, you're late tonight. Am I? He looks at his watch. Yeah, a little. Hey, it's snowing. Is it? Must have just started. Yeah, it looks nice. He sits down. Cal hands him the sports section. You finished? Thanks. How's it going? Fine. Great. You gave back the trig quiz today. Got an A on it. Great. Terrific. Well, he says and shrugs, it was just a quiz, but a gift. To have offered it is to show that it must have value for the giver also. That's your first A this semester? He looks up from the paper. Yeah, I'm getting back in the swing of things, huh? He grins. So truth is in a certain feeling of permanence that presses around the moment. They are ordinary people after all. For a time, they had entered the world of the newspaper statistic, a world where any measure you took to feel better was temporary at best. But that is over. This is permanent. It must be. Beth comes in from the kitchen. Dinner's ready. Conrad puts the paper down. I'm coming. Just have to wash my hands. Didn't you just take a shower? He grins again. Forgot to wash my hands. Cal laughs. Tricky. But he still hasn't told them that he quit. Chapter 12. At first, he was afraid that the hours after school would drag, but they do not. He fills them with studying, at school or in town, at the library. The old building is comfortable and secluded and dark, with its narrow stained glass windows, soft leather chairs. He can stay there until 5:30 and make it home on time, or else he walks, keeping an eye on his watch, checking the time, down Deer Path, past the Presbyterian Church, to the north campus of Lake Forest, where he can sit on a park bench and watch the birds. Nuthatches, creepers, chickadees, grosbeaks. He bought himself a bird book and is learning to identify them. Go sedately and earnestly about their business, which is eating. He carries envelopes of sunflower seeds in his jacket pockets. He has his own life list. This month, he has another activity, Christmas shopping. He wanders through the stores of the U-shaped outdoor mall, admiring the piles of merchandise in the windows, sweaters, shirts, gloves, scarves, jewelry, sports equipment, shoes, the monotonous beauty of wealth. Crystal wine goblets on red velvet, onyx chess sets, Japanese cameras, golf clubs, books. Undaunted, the traditional Christmas scene stealers, carolers, coaches, and horses, shepherds, angels, wise men, kings do battle in the same windows, with the tainted goods that surround them. Good for you. Fight the good fight. He's not daunted either. Christmas means gifts, and he puts his money down with the rest, says, have a nice Christmas when he's handed his packages. You too, they say. Before class one morning, Lazenby corners him at his locker. What happened? Salen says you quit. He nods curtly. Why? The halls are teeming with people. Mild frenzy, 2 minutes before the final bell. I felt like it, he says. It was a bore. Some reason. He doesn't answer. Busies himself with rummaging in his locker for his chemistry book. Lazenby leans an elbow against the wall. Con, is something the matter? What do you mean? I don't know. He shrugs his shoulders, looking worried. Big, blonde, sincere type. When he was in the hospital, Lazenby wrote him his only letter. Told him the scores of the Cubs and White Sox games. At the bottom of the page, I miss you, man. He had read it 1,000,000 times before he finally threw it away. Listen, don't worry, Conrad says. Everything's fine. I don't know, man. You've been acting funny lately. It trips the lever on the thing he meant not to say. Lays, take my advice. You hang around with flakes, you get flaky. Shit. I knew that was it. Well, why are you pissed at me? I'm not pissed. Oh, Connie, I know you. He tries to grin. Look, I'm sorry. I'd be pissed too. You shouldn't have quit. That's not why. Man, I said it was a fucking bore. He slams his locker closed, giving the lock a savage twist as he walks away. Lazenby falls into step beside him. Wait a minute. Listen, will you? I talked to Salen, and he says, well, quit talking to people, he snaps. Leave me alone. The bell rings shrilly over their heads. They stare at each other. Ah, shit, Lazenby says. The hell with you. A hollow feeling in the pit of his stomach, as if he's been punched. Never mind. Screw him. Screw them all. They were Buck's friends anyway. He walks on to class, feeling nothing. So Jordan was in that class. In that class ahead. But don't forget that Connie has been retained because he failed all of his classes. And so they would have been in the same classes as Jordan, as Buck. And so there's a lot going on in Connie's head. He thinks that he has no friends. So what does your dad say about it, Berger asks. He sighs. I haven't told him yet. How come? I don't know. His timing isn't right. He sweats everything so much. He'll just worry about it. So you haven't told anybody? Your mother? My mother? No. Listen, my mother and I do not connect. I told you that before. So, does that bother you? No. Why should it? Berger shrugs. I don't know. Some people it might bother, that's all. My mother is a very private person, he says. We don't ride the same bus. Who does? What do you have in common with your mother? Surface jump, brush your teeth, clean your room, get good grades. My mother, he stops. Careful. Careful. What is he thinking? What does he want to say? Why does he stop himself? People have a right to be the way they are, he says. Noble thought, Berger says. So how's it going? You feeling better since you're not swimming? I guess. He picks with his thumbnail at the wooden arm of the chair. Sleeping better? I jack off a lot. It helps. Berger grins. So what else is new? He slides down to the end of his spine, his legs stretched in front of him, staring at the floor. Over his shoulder, the clock ticks loudly. Come on, kiddo, Berger prods gently. Something's on your mind today. Nothing's new. Nothing's on my mind. I don't think anything. I don't feel anything. Abruptly, he sits up. I had to go home. Berger nods. Maybe so. What is it that you don't feel, huh? Anger? Sadness? Any of the 28 flavors? A tiny seed opens slowly inside his mind. In a hospital, the seed would grow and begin to produce thick, shiny leaves with fibrous veins running through them. More leaves to come. Like tiny curled up fists, they will hit at him. He tightens his grip on the arms of the chair. The wood is sticky and wet under his hands. He wets his lips nervously. What time is it? Lots of time, Berger says. The eyes are fixed on him. A tender and compelling blue. Hey, remember the contract we got? You wanted to have more control. See any connection here between control and this, what we'll call it, lack of feeling? He closes his eyes. A jungle in there inside his head. He opens them quickly. I didn't say I never feel things. I feel things. When? Sometimes? You're going to give me the famine, wars, violence in the streets business again? He doesn't answer. Come on, kiddo. I'm doing all the work here. I thought you told me you didn't like to play games. I don't. I'm not. I don't know what you want. Then I'll tell you. I want you to leave I don't know out there on the table with the magazines, okay? And what if I don't have an answer? You want me to make one up? Yeah, that'd be nice. Make me one up right now about how you've turned yourself inside out, and the overwhelming evidence is that there are no feelings in there know-how. I said I have feelings, Berger says, sighs. Now you have them, now you don't. Get it together, Jared. Why are you hassling me? Why are you trying to get me mad? Are you mad? No. Berger sits back in the chair. Now that, he says, is a lie. You're mad as hell. You don't like to be pushed. So why don't you do something? What? Geez, I don't know. Tell me to fuck off. Go to hell, something. Fuck off, he says. Go to hell. Berger laughs. Glory, what feeling? When's the last time you got really mad? He says carefully, when it comes, there's always too much of it. I don't know how to handle it. Sure, I know, Berger says. It's a closet full of junk. You open the door and everything falls out. No, he says, there's a guy in the closet. I don't even know him. That's the problem. Only way you're ever going to get to know him, Berger says, is to let him out now and then. Along with the boots and tennis rackets, stale bread, whatever you got stored up there. You go through it, you sort it out, you throw some of it away, then you stack up the rest, nice and neat. Next time it won't be such a big deal. I don't have the energy, he says. Kiddo, you got any idea how much energy it takes to hold the door closed like you do? That's power. Your own personal power and nobody else's. Sometimes, he says, when you let yourself feel, all you feel is lousy. Berger nods. Maybe you got to feel lousy sometime in order to feel better. A little advice, kiddo, about feeling, don't think too much about it. And don't expect it always to tickle. On another shopping trip after school, with his head somewhere else, he sidesteps a puddle, nearly walking into someone coming the other way. Oh, she says. Hi, how are you? Embarrassed, he mumbles an apology, then looks at her. It's Janine. What are you doing up here? She asks. I thought the swim team practiced until 6. They do, he says. I thought you were swimming. I used to, he says. I don't anymore. Oh, don't you swim as well as you sing? What? She laughs. Just kidding.